Hello, it's KM Hiker here, and this time we are going to take a look at my new waist belt and harness for my rucksack, that is Savotta Modular rucksack. So the original accessories that come with the rucksack are not necessarily the most comfortable and most adjustable. Also they are in a wrong color because I like the green and they are black, and of course they don't have this much mole loop on the waist belt. So that's a little bit minus. Now, so what I ended up doing was getting these from Varusteleka, and Varusteleka has their own rucksack with the frame that is called, I have to cheat, it's Särmä TST RP80. And they are very clever because business is business, so they decided to sell them separately. And as you can see, you can quite easily fit them to the Savotta rucksack. Now they are not 100% compatible, and of course if you are basically getting this for any framed rucksack, you may want or need to do some kind of an adjustment and modification to get them work. So I spent something like 30 to 40 minutes modifying these, and I got them working perfectly. So waist belt costs something like 90 euros and harness is something like 90 euros. So basically if you spend 180 euros, you can update your whole carrying system almost relatively cheaply. So the carrying handle is original from the Savotta and also the frame. So let's take a look at the waist belt first. So the biggest change of course is that it's in green and it's in this kind of military style way that you have this mole or pals loop. So if you want to have additional pouches, you can easily do that, and you can, of course, you can have your water bottles and other stuff easily hanging from your waist belt. Now, this is not the original buckle. The original buckle that comes with the Varusteleka belt is made of plastic, and I don't like anything that is plastic and buckle related. So I got these Austrian Alpin Cobra buckles that are quite excellent. And so what else? You have a quite nice padding on the inside. It's very similar what actually is coming with the Savotta system. But what is quite, I would expect exactly whatever good, is this basically this cushion or support that is coming for your lower back. And it is attached with Velcro from upper, lower and the front. So basically if you want to get it off, you can do that, and you can also try to adjust it to fit your needs. Anyhow, quite nice. And what's quite good is that it's very firmly and widely attached to the actual packing material, so it's not as floppy on any level like was with the original belt. So basically Savotta Modular system has this almost loose pillow that when you put the sack on your back with the load, it's basically almost moving somewhere, and I would say that it's not the most comfortable or neatest way of doing any kind of a weight carrying belt. So I would say this is something like maybe 3 or 4 centimeters thick, and I would say it's quite comfortable when carrying larger loads. On the other side, what we have, of course, is a very familiar black packing material, and we have fiberglass balls here to give it stability this way, and then we have this venti groove in Finnish, I don't know what is in English, but this thumb screw that you turn to tighten or loosen the actual system. And also the problem with the modular rucksack system is that it's basically, there was this very complicated string system that you have to almost always undo and tighten if you want to adjust absolutely anything, and it's very problematic on the upper side, like if you want to have someone else carry your rucksack is shorter and longer than you, because then you have to adjust this and it takes ages. And then you have these straps, 25mm straps on the upper part of the system to, of course, to lock it in places on this level. The same thing, of course, with the harness is that you have fiberglass balls, and then you have this venti groove. So nothing spectacular here. Actually, this venti groove is something that Savotta is also using on their some of their rucksacks. So it's not something that Varusteleka has figured out, but it's a much better system than than the string system. Now on the front side, you have some loops for your thingies, like water bottles or whatever, and you have 25 millimeter wide straps that are basically connected to the lower part, and of course plastic buckles, and very similar this padding that you have in the original system. But what makes this different for Savotta system is that Savotta's own padding will end on the upper part of the backing material, and what Varusteleka has done is that they have figured out that you have usually spine in the middle and you may want to have padding on both sides of that, so we have this nice gap here, so I would say that this is very comfortable to carry. As you can see, you have padding on the both sides. Yeah, so as you can see, there's not really that much to tell. The only problem what this harness has, that maybe the neck should have a little bit maybe more space. You definitely need a jacket that has a longer collar, because this might, at least in my case, this will shave on my skin and very uncomfortable, so I usually carry this with either this kind of shirt or any kind of jacket that has a long tall collar. Now this Varusteleka's rucksack, this RP80, is not as wide what comes to the frame as the Savotta rucksack frame, and I believe it's not identical to any of the Savotta's frame rucksack. So what I figured out is that the actual frame of the Savotta is a little bit let's say thinner. So basically, like, you have to do some modification, and also these bars in the middle are not in the places they are in the Varusteleka's rucksack. So you have to do some modifications. So what is the maybe most time consuming is that the width is not the same. So basically you have a couple of options. You can, if you can sew, you can make these little C-folds here, so you get this a little bit more narrower. The other option is that you can actually shorten the screws a little bit. So the problem here is that when you have this ventilo with tightened, the ends of the screws will hit together and you cannot tighten anymore. So you should get a hacksaw and cut a little bit of the ends away so you can get them tight enough. So that you have to do on the upper and lower part. Also what you have to do is that there's a friction material on the inside of this black material, and now that this is narrower, the friction material in the Varusteleka system is in a different place, so you have to either get new friction material or cut off the old one and put them in the right place. Takes maybe 10 minutes, or of course if you have a sewing machine it's 10 minutes, but if you do it by hand it might take a little bit longer. But once you get that figure done, the upper part is almost done. In the lower part, the problem is that the bar here on the lower part is a little bit in the wrong place. So these straps here don't go together like snap. You have to basically do some weaving, so you have to put them underneath first and then just loop them over, so you get this in tension so it doesn't move up or down radically. And then we have this up and down controlling strap that is basically connecting the harness to the actual belt, and it's basically 50 millimeter strap. But the problem is that in a Savotta rucksack you have this bar in the middle that prevents that. Of course you cannot connect to the 50 millimeter how would I say, the strap again to itself. Also the 50 millimeter strap is too short. So basically what I did, and I recommend that you also do, is to get these 25 millimeter straps, have them like this on both sides, and have this kind of plastic buckle so you can loop it around the lower part of this bar here. And this works quite well. And you also get, in this kind of system, you get this adjustment on lengthwise. So I would say that I knew what I was doing, and I also got tips from a friend, so it took me 30 to 40 minutes to modify this to get everything fit together. And I have to say that this is much more comfortable and controllable to carry than the original rucksack, original accessories and stuff from Savotta. Cost something like 180, and of course this Austin buckles are something like 40 or 35, so the update cost maybe 200 and maybe 220 euros. Yeah, Varusteleka stuff, very highly recommendable.